Bob's got his there. So.
Okay, we're going to start in just a minute because we do want to be on time and we're already late.
We're already late. I saw a lot of people lingering, including you. So Karina's just, okay, let's see. See one more person coming in. So I'm going to tell Karina.
I did.
Okay.
She's ready for me.
Okay. I'll ring the bell.
Yeah. And then just go ahead. You're going to do the announcements and then turn it over to Jackie or to Judy.
That worked. Got the rest of you coming in? Good morning. Welcome to the Treasure Coast Unitarian Universalist Congregation here in Stuart, Florida. Today is February 29th, 2023. My name is Janet Grote, and I am your worship associate today. We are a welcoming congregation. We welcome people of all gender identities, ethnicities, age, and backgrounds. It's wonderful to see all our vaccinated members in the sanctuary today. We are on YouTube too. Hi, YouTubers. To be put on our email list or to find out more information about us, you can go to our website, tcuuc.org, and note the email link to request an online newsletter. Since we have several visitors here, if you are interested in getting that email, be sure to sign some sheets that are in the entry area there. Did y'all silence your cell phones? Oh. And we do have a lot of visitors here. Some of you I know are here specifically for the service, which is going to be really interesting. Some of you are snowbirds and have come to visit us. So if you're comfortable, please step up to the microphone and introduce yourself. If there's anyone that would like to do that. Uh-huh. Oh, no, that's John. Is that John? we know him. Ah, okay.
Hi, I'm Michael. I'm visiting, and I'm a gay guy who has stayed away from a lot of churches, and I just thought I'd try Unitarians, and it's just a coincidence that it happens to be the theme today, so that's pretty good.
Well, welcome.
Hello, my name is Susan, and this is my husband, Max, and we're Unitarian Universalists from the Cumberland Valley in Pennsylvania, UUCV. It's near Harrisburg, and the town is Boiling Springs, where our church is. And we have an old building that we are renovating.
Welcome. Okay. Reverend Bob MacDonald is in the pulpit today, along with Karen Olesch, who will be doing the sermon, Gender Identity, Standing on the Side of Love. As a complement to the sermon, Rachel Valentino will be talking about her transition after our coffee hour in Heston Hall, the social hall. We do have some announcements, but do see the printed order of service and our newsletter for details. If you're interested in a small group experience, a covenant group, think about adding your name to the sign-up sheet in the greeting area or see Judy Bajoris. Join us the first and third Tuesdays at Stewart's Veterans Memorial Park downtown at noon for our brown bag lunch. The book club is starting a new book this week, See No Stranger. Today we are selling used books which the club has read. There are many messy notes in them, but for a few bucks you'll get some good books. See them in the social hall. The hors d'oeuvres and movie night was a big success last week, so look for the event again next month on the 28th. And a big thanks, especially to Judy Bajoris for our music, our greeters, Jackie and Tia, and our ushers. Oops, we have ushers. And our host, Karina Poloni, and our tech support, Rachel Valentino. Marguerite Gregory is in the kitchen getting us coffee and cookies. Now is the time for our prelude. Oh, thank you, Judy. Now we're going to do our chalice lighting.
I'll take this.
We come together without creed, focusing instead on the core values of justice, equity, and compassion. We come together in mutual acceptance of our diverse ways of being. We light this chalice as a beacon of hope for those who have gathered this day, for all who have ever walked through our doors, for those who may find the spiritual home, and for those whose paths will never come our way, but with whom we are ever connected in spirit. About 10 years ago, I went with my Romanian cousin-in-law to an Orthodox church in Vancouver. I was overwhelmed by the fragrance and smoke of the candles. They were being lit by many people in memory of their loved ones. And at the same time, the members made a monetary donation to their church. My cousin was a bit shocked when I told her about our practice of pledging our donations. But this is not a plea for the plate. It brought me to think about our joys and sorrows rituals in Unitarian Universalist churches. This ritual is a practice of holding one another in community. We used to commemorate by lighting a candle. I remember the fabulous candelabra my parents had commissioned in Mexico for their UU California church. As fire safety became an issue, rituals changed a bit. In my Missouri church, someone had the idea to use kitty litter in a big bowl to set the candles in. This did not last long, as we cat owners rebelled, as the litter was not a good visual for us. There was a move in many churches to change to using stones. Here, our first bowl was plastic. In my book, it was almost as bad as kitty litter. So I looked around my house for a substitute and found this earthy ceramic bowl my mom made. That one. And we worship associates came up with a ritual, which we call the River of Life, where we move a stone from the bowl to the plate. I don't imagine this will represent our joys and sorrows forever, as we are ever evolving. Today we start with a slight change. Rachel has pointed out that we all yell out, "Stone!" when someone forgets to move a stone. She pointed out that stoning brings up some unwelcome images for those who were raised with sacred texts, which refer to stoning. So no more calling out stone. A worship associate will hand you a stone to put on the plate, representing how life rolls down like a river. Ours is a sharing community where our joys are amplified, a caring community where our sorrows are lessened. Now stand if you like. We are going to do our first hymn, number 10, Immortal Love. Please be seated. Now we are going to recite our affirmation, speaking the first verse and singing the second. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
This is our time of sharing joys and sorrows. We hope that as people let us know what is in their lives, personal matter of joy or sorrow, they will know they are being heard and supported. We invite you to come to the mic and tell us yours. First of all, I'll start with a joy, and that is the joy of seeing Phyllis Hall here today. Phyllis is one of our younger members. She just turned 98. She has to go back to Simsbury, Connecticut, but keeps in touch with us, and we certainly hope you'll be back, Phyllis. We love you. Anyone else want to come forward and tell us a matter of joy or sorrow?
Joy? I'll do joy. I seem to have quite a few joys these days. My grandson, James Fayon Clymer Blizzard, got into Central High in Philadelphia, which is, I understand, is considered good. I wish him well.
Good. Anyone else?
Yes, good morning. I'm Judith Watt, and this is a very special hello to Yashi Nozawa, hoping that he is well and stays well. Yashi.
Anyone else? Okay, I'll tell you about an event I had this week. On Thursday at home midday, I experienced an episode of dizziness and weakness in the legs. So I called my doctor and got the message, if you're having a medical emergency, dial 911. Otherwise, we'll get back to you in 48 hours. I thought I should not take the 48-hour chance, so my 911 driver put down her book and took me into Martin Memorial ER. And there I had all kinds of testing, most memorably the MRI, which I was warned would be loud, clangy, and they asked, did you want music to try to, and I didn't. So when I came out of it, it was like a drilling and clanging sound. I said to the tech, what music would overcome that? He said, heavy metal. Anyway, the end result of my day and my night in MMER was I probably have blood pressure issues to see to, but nothing major. So I'm very grateful for that experience. Would you please move a stone for me? And we always move one for those that we haven't said out loud, but we know we carry with us. And that this is for all of them. Now, my meditation is one that I found in the back of the hymnal again by Patricia Schutte. It sounds like a summer reading, so I don't want you to think I'm confused about the seasons, although in Florida one can be confused about the seasons so long as you keep the two main ones straight, snowbird season and hurricane season. But this is really a beautiful reading entitled The Winds of Summer. So I've told you that, and now hear this. You and I and all of us blew about with the winds of summer, following the sun in different ways of freedom and play, finding rest in the cool stillness of shadows, and moving to the slow, heat-struck rhythms which turn the long hours of summer light. Now it is time for gathering in. We come together at this time and in this place on the bridge of autumn. Summer is fading backward into memory, and winter waits in snowy brilliance. We meet with eagerness and delight needing one another for sharing. We have joys and sorrows and hopes to share, questions, things we care about and want to help make better, things that we would like to understand, ideas waiting to be heard. Today, we are together in gladness, once more the special community that we call our church, a community of all ages that sings its songs, tells its thoughts, asks its questions, and searches together with courage and with love. Patricia Shati. And now moments of silence. And now hymn 123 will remain seated. We hum the verse, and then we sing the verse. Okay, so now I beat the drum for the offering. You know, I try to say every week that we hope people here experience generosity, and we need your generosity to keep on offering what we can to the community. Thank you, ushers. I want to say how deeply grateful I am to Karen and to Rachel for sharing what they will share this morning with us. UU is a non-creedal church. People come here with various religious backgrounds, but we suggest and we push principles that are on the back of our bulletin, and we tell each other how we think they need to be applied in our community and in our world. If you are new to us today, we hope you'll read that and consider working on your religious journey here. We know that people who aren't understood in our society are often feared and demonized. So I asked Rachel to give us a lesson on what trans people experience and what we all need to know to understand them and support them. So I'm really grateful for her willingness. And Karen volunteered to bring a message giving her background and insights on what trans people go through. So our hope is today, with the worship service part, and then after a brief break, the forum in the other room, our hope is that we'll understand this part of our community better and be supportive rather than fearful. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Bob. When Reverend Bob asked me to do a sermon, he asked it to be educational. So today it will be sort of part sermon, part lecture. And you might see a little bit of my teaching background come out. In any case, I think and I hope that you'll find that it's a loving message. And it's actually also going to serve as a kickoff to a group that we're starting here called the UU Rainbow Connection, in which we will meet on a monthly basis to, for support, to talk about theology, queer theology, to have presentations, and perhaps a book club or anything else that you all want to come up with that speaks to you. We'll be having a meeting in February, our first meeting in February, and Rachel and I will work together on a Facebook page, and you can sign up on Rachel's sign-up sheet after if you are interested in getting more information about that. So the title that I chose for the sermon, you'll notice, says Gender Identity, Standing by the Side of Love, which is actually a song for those of you that are UU. And so I wanted to go ahead and play that song this morning. Feel free to sing along if you wish. Karina is going to pull it up here on our screen.
The promise of the Spirit, faith, hope, and love abide, and so every soul is blessed and made whole. The truth in our hearts is our guide. We are standing on the side of love, hands joined together as hearts beat as one. Standing on the side of love. Sometimes we build a barrier to keep love tightly bound, corrupted by fear, unwilling to hear, denying the beauty we found. We are standing on the side of love. Standing on
When my first child, born male, was 4 years old, we went to a birthday party for my friend's daughter. It was a dress-up party. They had all sorts of dress-up clothes for boys and girls, cowboy outfits, doctor outfits, of course firefighter outfits, tuxedos, girls' party dresses, fancy hats, you name it, they had it all. My male child decided on a party dress. He was the only boy wearing a party dress at the party. After putting on the dress, he sat down at the girls' table and wanted to have tea and cakes. I found it interesting. He got some stares, but I thought he is only 4 and having fun, so I let him run with it. He never forgot that party, and it was the beginning of his gender journey. I say gender journey because he does not consider himself to be a transgender person. The way he described it was that he just wanted to be who he was, a human being without gender. He asked us to call him by his name instead of using pronouns. His name at that time was Taliesin. We all had a great deal of difficulty using Taliesin as a name and a pronoun, so he told us that his preferred pronoun was she. When we moved to Florida, she, Taliesin, did not know anyone. She was 16 and recognized that it could be a fresh start. She chose a new name, started taking hormones, and we spent a year doing laser treatments to remove as much hair as we possibly could from her entire body. Even though she chose a gender-neutral name, Miyu, after her love of all things Japanese, changed her pronoun to she and took hormones, she still did not consider herself transgender. During that time, the term non-binary had not yet become mainstream, and we did not know about it as a choice. She still does not identify with any of the labels and just considers herself to be Miyu, a human being. This was my first experience with someone who did not identify with the gender he was born with, but it would not be my last. There are others in my family who have come out as transgender and non-binary, but I do not have permission to share all of their stories. However, today, my child Alistair would like to share their story. Alistair?
Hello and good morning to the people of this church I've come to know so well, and some I have not. I have a bit of a feeling that we're all surprised to see me here, or maybe not. When my mother asked me if I was going to be speaking today, I quite honestly had a moment of thought. I went, huh? I have to actually commit to something? Now, I, who's so very obviously great at public speaking, went, yeah, that's fine. So, I'm here to talk about my gender and my experience that comes with it. I've got a bit of an interesting gender, my friends. As uncommitted of a man I am, I also am completely uncommitted to my gender. People often see gender as two sides, male and female. I've completely thrown the sides out of the window and identify as non-binary. I've got no gender. Now, I personally use the pronouns they and them, as well as male terms, such as sir and son. Now, I personally have plans to transition, which I've already started. I've cut my hair, I've changed the way I dress, sorry for the inconvenience, mother, and I've planned to take hormones, well, at least until the state of Florida ruined that for me. Now, there are things I must wait for and things I can act on now. Though at the moment, I am seen as female, which is hard, not being seen as the person you are. But I've got a supportive family to help me through it. I've never had to struggle with staying in the closet. These things have always been a possibility to me, which really goes to show how common it is to feel this way, and why we should be supportive of these things. Terrifying things are happening to our group, and it scares me. And it is something we should work against. We're all people with feelings, aren't we?
Thank you for sharing, Alistair.
It's over.
When I asked someone recently who I'm very close to and who identifies as transgender, what she most wanted, she said, was acceptance. Many people who come out as transgender and non-binary are not accepted. For about 6 months, I worked for the Trevor Project as a crisis counselor. The Trevor Project, for those of you who do not know about it, is a crisis hotline for youth that are in the LGBTQ+ community, and they are in crisis and at risk for suicide. During my time as a Trevor counselor, I took calls from many transgender and non-binary persons who were not accepted by their families. They were either hiding, being beaten, or homeless. They were not 18, and they had nowhere to go. Some of them would call several times a day. Every time I was on that hotline, I saved a life, at least in that moment. The information you learn about today, and the reason that we're having this service, is because it will help you to save other people's lives. By becoming educated and by accepting transgender and non-binary folks, you can save a life. So I thought we'd play a fun game at the beginning, and I'm going to have all of you that can stand up, stand up. It's a little transgender and non-binary awareness game, so go ahead and stand, and if you're not able to stand, you can just raise your hand. And so when I ask a question, remain standing or keep your hand up if you know the answer. Sit down or lower your hand if you do not know the answer. So we'll start with gender identity. Remain standing or keep your hand up if you think you know what gender identity means. Did you define it as an individual's basic self-conviction of being a man, a woman, a blend, or neither? This conviction is not contingent on the individual's sex assigned at birth. It looks like everybody did pretty good on that one. Our next term is gender expression. If you think you know what gender expression means, remain standing or keep your hand up. If not, you can sit down or lower your hand. So, if you answered it in the following way, it is how one presents themselves through appearance and mannerisms, clothes, hairstyle, voice. If someone dresses more masculine, this does not necessarily mean that they identify as male. Thus, don't assume that the way a person is expressing themselves is tied directly to how they identify. So if you got that one right, you can remain standing or keep your hand up. The next one is cisgender. If you know what cisgender means, you can stay standing or keep your hand up. Cisgender, or simply cis, is an adjective that describes a person whose gender identity aligns with the sex they were assigned at birth. Okay, now here's a hard one, I think. Two-spirit. If you have heard of what a two-spirited person might be, remain standing or keep your hand up. I see there are only a few people left. And this really speaks to the fact that we need more awareness, which is why we're giving this service today. A two-spirit is an umbrella term indexing various indigenous gender identities in North America. It is not a synonym for transgender or LGBTQ folks. It is an identity that aligns with familial work and spiritual work in indigenous communities. So thank you for playing our game, and you can now sit down. There are many more terms to be aware of, and Rachel will talk about some of them today after the service. In 2017, Colorado State University held a trans and non-binary summit to raise awareness. Their presentation can be found on YouTube, but I wanted to highlight some of the information that came out of this summit. First, it is important to know that binary genders are Western, colonized ways of conceptualizing gender. Many people believe that to be transgender or non-binary is a trendy thing, and they fear that our teens are exploring their gender due to the influence of their peers. I hope that my opening story about my oldest daughter and Alistair's story about themselves hope to dispel that myth. It is not new, it is not trendy. Transgender, third gender, and non-binary folks have always existed around the world, but the respect, place, and role in communities has changed over the course of history, largely influenced by colonization and the violent eraser of culture. Gender is a white, patriarchal conception that has been used as a political tool. The creation and enforcement of gender roles served racist, classist, and economical purposes for stratifying power for white, upper-class male colonizers whose goal was to separate themselves from women, black men and women, and folks of other races. Gender is a social construct that has a tremendous impact on our lives. We are under an enormous amount of pressure to perform and conform to these roles. Gender is a repeated behavior that we are socialized in and then either rewarded or punished for. This is called the cycle of socialization. Karina, if you could pull up the slide. You may not be able to see everything on the slide, but we can email it to you or print out a copy for you after the service. So at the beginning of the cycle, you'll notice the first circle. That represents the situation into which we are born. We have no control over this. We are also born without bias, without assumptions or questions. We are either lucky to be born into a privileged situation or unlucky to be born into an underprivileged situation. So in that first circle, it says, born into a world with mechanics in place, no consciousness, no guilt, no choice, misinformation, biases, stereotypes, prejudices, history, habit, tradition. That all goes in that first circle. Then you'll see an arrow cascading over, and that is the fact that our socialization process begins immediately. We are given a pink blanket if we are a girl, or a blue one if we are a boy. The rules and norms are already in place, and we subtly, and in many cases not so subtly, are made aware of the rewards of conforming and the consequences of rebelling. So at the top there, if you can't read it, it says socialized, taught on a personal level by family, teachers, people we love and trust, shapers of expectations, norms, values, roles, and rules. So the second circle represents the institutions that help shape our views and beliefs and help instill within us prejudice or acceptance. And in that second circle, it says we are reinforced and bombarded with messages from institutions like churches, schools, TV, legal systems, medicine, business, culture, lyrics, language, media, patterns of thought, and these take place on conscious and unconscious levels. The second arrow represents the way in which the instilling of ideas, beliefs, and behaviors reinforce a cycle of oppression. Behaving differently is not as simple as most of us think. We are rewarded for good behavior by conforming to the norms and standards, and by the same token, we are punished for bad behavior, questioning or rebelling against oppressive societal norms. So going down on that arrow, it says enforced, stigmatized, rewards and punishments, privilege, persecution, discrimination, and empowerment. As we move to the third circle, that represents the devastating result upon all of us that this self-perpetuated cycle of oppression produces. In that third circle, it says silence, anger, dehumanization, guilt, self-hatred, stress, violence, and crime. The final arrow represents a point at which we all arrive, the results of the cycle. We are forced to make a decision, even if that decision is to do nothing. Doing nothing is the easier choice, especially for those who benefit from the perpetuation of the cycle. We are all victims of the cycle, and we are all hurt by it. Oppression hurts the oppressed and the oppressor. And finally, it is the wheel that turns or enables any cycle. At the center or core of the cycle of socialization are fear, misunderstanding, insecurity, and confusion. But where do we go from here? You'll notice there's a little arrow coming down, pointing towards the bottom of the slide, and that says change, raise consciousness, interrupt, educate, take a stand, question, and reframe. And that is what we're all doing here today. The summit also presented some national statistics that we need to be aware of. You can be fired for being LGBT+ in 28 states and fired for being trans in 30 states. The trans unemployment rate is 3 times the national average. 41% of trans and gender nonconforming adults have attempted suicide. 41%. The national average is 4.5. 54% of LGBTQ youth have been abused by their families, and I witnessed that personally every time I took that Trevor shift. 78% of trans and non-binary kids in K through 12 are harassed based on their gender identity, and many of them have chosen alternative methods of school, including homeschool. What can we do? We need to reframe things. We need to educate others. We need to be aware that people do not have mental health issues because of their identity. Instead, they are facing challenges because of homophobia, cissexism, gender-based violence, discrimination, and bias enacted by other people, institutions, and systems. We need to work on changing our language. It is not, what is your preferred name or pronoun? These are people's names and pronouns. Avoid language of male and female. Remove gendered language from handbooks, manuals, documents. Transphobic language, such as ladies and gentlemen, or you don't look trans, what is your real name? You are not a real man or a real woman. These are things that transgender people have to put up with almost on a daily basis if they meet somebody new. They are also not tokens. One person does not represent the entirety of the transgender population. Open a space for them. Don't ask if they are transitioning. Wait to see if they offer their story. Don't ask what they used to look like. Ask for photographs of how they looked as a male or a female. Open a space for their voice and respect their voice. In closing, I just wanted to say a few things. There is a website available, and it is called teachingtransgender.com, and it provides a book, which is a toolkit, which I hope that we'll work through, that can help us change our systems and organizations. And I hope that here at the Treasure Coast UU, we can work together to correct some of the language and other structures that need to be addressed. So I have just a few closing words that are actually the lyrics from a song also called Standing on the Side of Love. And these lyrics are from Steve Howry. All the choices that we make define us, and the voices that we heed align us. And across the great divide, we're standing on the side of love. All the people who want change surround us, and the people in the know have found us. If your mind is open wide, you're standing on the side of love. Love conquers all. Love makes us whole. Love braves the hardest times, and love is in your soul. So come with us and live and love. All the ones who don't like change malign us, and the ones who deal in fear undermine us. But we take it in our stride. We're standing on the side of love. Now the future's in our heart and feelings, and we know the way that love can do things. So now love will be our guide. We're standing on the side of love. So please join us for coffee hour, and then Rachel will be
We
speaking.
have the last hymn.
We have the last hymn. We forgot the last
And
hymn.
you take a moment and be seated. Thank you, Karen. That was great. Yes, let's stand or remain seated if you prefer for our closing hymn, 95, There Is More Love Somewhere. And you have a little better idea now where. 95. Now let's be seated and listen to the prelude, and after that we'll go across the hall, pick up coffee, and our next part will begin in about 10 or 15 minutes. But I hope you'll all stay for that. But now the prelude. The postlude. Now I wanted to start over again.
I want to remind everybody of the Adventure Club coming up on Thursday, February 16th. We're going to McCarty's Ranch Preserve for a hike. Then we'll go to the Thirsty Turtle Restaurant for lunch. And then we will go to the Spruce Pine Reserve for another hike. These are all in northwest St. Lucie County. Sign-up sheet out in the narthex.